Once the heartbeat of Aussie shopping, these department stores shaped our cities, our style, and our childhood memories. Join us as we explore 15 vanished department stores that every true Aussie still remembers. Do you remember when Sydney's city centre was ruled by empires of glass and marble? When a trip to the department store was more than shopping, it was an event? Anthony Horden and Sons was that place. The Palace Emporium, rising 6 stories on Brickfield Hill, once held 52 acres of retail wonder, making it the largest department store in the world. You could wander past furniture, fashion, toys and homewares, all under chandeliers imported from Italy, with the store's motto, "While I live, I'll grow," etched above every doorway. Kids pressed their noses against window displays. Families lingered in tea rooms or used the travel agency to plan their holidays. Mail order catalogues bound in red cloth brought Horden's magic to the entire country, from city streets to dusty outback towns. Samuel Horden expanded the store relentlessly, making it a landmark, a meeting place, a heartbeat of Sydney life. But times changed. By the 1960s, losses mounted, suburban malls pulled shoppers away, and by 1970, Waltons took over. The iconic Brickfield Hill building was eventually demolished in 1986, replaced by concrete and steel. Still, if you ever wandered those aisles, smelled fresh fabrics, or glimpsed a gleaming chandelier, you remember a store where the world felt vast and magical, even in the heart of Sydney. Remember the hum of Melbourne streets when department stores weren't just shops, but landmarks of life? Ball & Welch was one of those places. Founded in 1855 by Charles Ball and his nephew William Welch, it grew from a small drapery on the goldfields to Melbourne's leading family emporium. The Flinders Street store, completed in 1899 with its grand American Romanesque facade, stretched across an entire city block, its neon signage once glowing all the way to the Dandenong Ranges. Inside, aisles overflowed with everything from gloves and umbrellas to furs, mantles and corsets. At one time, 26 assistants were devoted to selling lace alone. Families lingered in gift departments, browsed furniture or marvelled at millinery displays, while catalogues brought Ball & Welch's reach to the suburbs and country towns alike. It wasn't just shopping, it was an experience. But suburban expansion and corporate takeover changed everything. In 1970, Georges acquired Ball & Welch, and by 1976, all stores had closed. The flagship Flinders Street building survived as Flinders Fair, later transformed into offices and a car park, while only its restored facade hints at the grandeur of its past. Yet if you ever walked those neon-lit aisles or admired the elegant displays, you remember a store that shaped Melbourne's shopping culture, a place where every corner promised discovery and delight. Long before malls lined the outskirts of Perth, there was a store that drew the city to its doors. Bowen's opened in 1895, when Harry and Benjamin Bowen transformed a patch of swampy land near the railway station into a bustling, single-storey emporium. By the end of the first day, most shelves were nearly empty. Inside, aisles stretched with furniture, clothing, toys and household goods, each corner alive with the rhythm of the city. After Benjamin's early death, Harry expanded Bowen's across Wellington and Murray Streets, forming Bowen's Limited in 1912. The store became Western Australia's largest private employer and a centre of community life. Mail order catalogues in the 1930s and 1940s brought Bowen's into homes across the state, giving country families access to the same treasures as city shoppers. A fire in 1979 shook the city, but the store reopened, holding on until 1984 when Myer acquired the chain. Slowly, the iconic stores closed or were rebranded. Today, Forest Chase occupies the site, but those who remember the gleaming counters, the scent of fresh fabrics, or the excitement of wandering the aisles know what made Bowen's more than a store. It was a heartbeat of Perth, a place where shopping felt like an event, and every visit promised discovery. Long before Melbourne's Bourke Street became lined with high-rise offices, it was home to a store that defined style and elegance. Buckley and Nunn. Opened in 1851 by Mars Buckley and John Nunn, the store began as a humble drapery and soon grew into a department store, rivaling Myer itself. Customers flocked to its aisles for gloves, millinery, frocks and furniture, while the tea rooms offered a fashionable meeting place for ladies in the 1920s. The two iconic buildings on Bourke Street, the Edwardian Baroque Emporium completed in 1912 and the Art Deco men's store of 1934, became landmarks, admired for their architecture as much as for the shopping inside. Shoppers paused to admire the bas-relief figures, the terracotta panels and the gleaming lifts, while catalogues brought Buckley and Nunn's reach to homes across Victoria. Yet time and corporate changes caught up. In 1982, David Jones acquired the company, merging it into its operations and closing the suburban stores at Chadstone and Northland. The Bourke Street stores were absorbed and the name Buckley and Nunn faded from Melbourne's retail map. But anyone who walked those polished floors, admired the Art Deco facades, or lingered in the tea rooms, remembers a store that made shopping an experience, a place that blended fashion, architecture and city life into a single unforgettable memory. In the heart of Hobart, long before modern malls spread across Tasmania, one store captured the imagination of generations. Charles Davis. Founded in 1847 by Charles Davis, an Englishman who arrived as a convict, the business began as a humble hardware, ironmongery and tinsmithing shop. Over the decades, it grew into one of Tasmania's most influential enterprises, occupying the Cat and Fiddle arcade and expanding into manufacturing, boating and even electrical equipment. Charles Davis ran the company until 1911, stepping down at the age of 87, while his family continued to operate the business well into the 1970s. Under the leadership of Sir Donald Trescothick, the company diversified further, acquiring regional retailers like Harris Scarfe, Cox Foy's, Fitzgerald's and McEwan's, transforming Charles Davis into Australia's third largest retailer by the late 1980s. Its department stores became centres of community life, offering everything from hardware to household goods under one roof, and even sponsoring events like the Melbourne to Hobart Yacht Race. Financial difficulties eventually caught up with the company, and by 2001, Charles Davis Limited was placed in receivership. Yet for Tasmanians who grew up wandering the polished aisles, marvelling at tools, household items, and the hum of a bustling store, the name Charles Davis evokes a sense of nostalgia, a reminder of a time when shopping was both an adventure and a community experience, long before suburban malls took over. Long before shopping centres dotted Queensland, Ipswich had a store that felt like the heart of the city, Crib and Foot. Founded in 1849 by Benjamin Cribb as a drapery shop and expanded into partnership with John Clark Foote in 1854, it quickly grew into a full-fledged department store. Designed by architect F.D.G. Stanley, the original brick building boasted light wells for natural lighting and ventilation, making it a modern marvel for its time. Over the decades, Cribb and Foote offered everything from buttons to cars. It housed a shoe department, a pharmacy, and even an agricultural machinery store with smaller branches across the Ipswich region and a mail order service that reached all of Queensland. A three-storey wing added in 1912 included a lift and its own electricity supply, reflecting the store's ambition to be more than just a shopping destination. It was a community hub. In 1972, Walter Reed and Company acquired the business, renaming it Reed's Department Store. The end came tragically in 1985 when a devastating fire destroyed the iconic building, melting the Ipswich Clock Tower's face and leaving the city in economic shock. Though the site eventually became Ipswich City Square, memories of Cribb and Foote lingered. Its aisles once buzzing with the hum of a thriving community, a place where shopping was more than a chore. It was a gathering of Ipswich itself. Before the shopping malls spread across Tasmania, there was a store that defined Hobart's streets, Fitzgerald's. Founded in March 1886 by George Parker Fitzgerald, a former Hutchins School scholar, the store began as a modest wholesale business on Collins Street. Its ambition quickly outgrew its beginnings, and by 1912, after a devastating fire destroyed the original premises, a brand new building opened, spanning Collins, Murray and Elizabeth Streets. A true landmark for Tasmanians. Fitzgerald's became more than a department store. It offered a full range of goods, from fashion and homewares to specialty items, across its flagship in Hobart and branches in Launceston, Burnie, Eastlands, Moona and New Norfolk. The chain even absorbed former venture stores in Devonport and Ulverstone, cementing its position as Tasmania's largest family-owned department store network. In 1981, Charles Davis acquired Fitzgerald's, and by 1995, after years of mounting losses, the chain was merged with Harris Scarfe. The Fitzgerald's name disappeared, replaced by the new banner, though many stores continued operating under Harris Scarfe. Yet for those who wandered the aisles decades ago, the memory of Fitzgerald's remains. The smell of polished floors, the bustle of locals shopping for their families, and a place where Tasmanians felt at home. Though Harris Scarfe carries on, Fitzgerald's, as it was known, lives only in memory, a reminder of a Tasmanian retail era that shaped a generation. In an era when Melbourne streets were filled with bustling markets and small shops, Foy and Gibson stood as a beacon of modern retail. Founded by Mark Foy in Collingwood as a drapery, the store expanded rapidly through the late 19th century. By 1889, under William Gibson, the store was reorganised on the model of Paris's Bon Marché, becoming Melbourne's first true department store. Foy and Gibson was more than a shop. It was a manufacturing powerhouse. Workshops produced clothing, millinery, furniture, bedding, hardware, and even their own woolens under the name Gibsonia. The company became one of Victoria's largest employers, with iconic red brick multi-level buildings dominating Smith and Wellington streets. Its reach extended beyond Melbourne, opening branches in Perth, 1895, Brisbane, 1903, and Adelaide's Rundle Street, 1907. A second Melbourne store, the Big Store, opened in Prahran in 1902. The company was sold to Cox Brothers in 1955, then gradually taken over by David Jones and Woolworths. By the late 1960s, Foy and Gibson ceased to exist as a brand, though their Bourke Street building still stands, modernised but a silent witness to a bygone retail era. For those who remember, Foy and Gibson was more than shopping. It was a Melbourne institution. Its name may have vanished, but the memory of its bustling emporiums and workshops continues to live in the stories of old-time Melburnians. Long before Melbourne's city streets were lined with modern malls, Georges stood as a temple of women's fashion. Founded in 1880 by the George brothers, William and Alfred, the store quickly became a landmark on Collins Street, renowned for its elegance, wide range of goods, and flair for innovation. In its early years, Georges sold everything from clothing and hats to coal and toys, evolving over time to focus on high-quality women's wear and accessories. The store became synonymous with sophistication. Its atrium, expansive show windows, and meticulous interior renovations in the 1930s created a shopping experience rivaling London's Harrods. Georges pioneered many retail trends, including fashion parades and designer collaborations offering customers exclusive labels such as Georg Jensen and Liberty Fabrics. Under Rita Findlay's guidance in the mid-20th century, the store cultivated a largely female staff and introduced a style of salesmanship that emphasised loyalty over pressure. Despite expansions, acquisitions like Ball and Welch in 1970, and ownership changes, including Cox Brothers and later David Jones, Georges's glory days gradually waned. By 1995, the store closed its doors, marking the end of an era. Yet for Melburnians who recall window shopping along Collins Street, Georges remains more than a memory. It was a symbol of style, innovation, and the city's retail elegance. In the heart of Sydney, a store once beckoned men with its rugged charm and urban sophistication, Gowings. Established in 1868 by John and Preston Gowing, it began as a modest mercery and glove depot on the corner of George and Market Streets. Over decades, it grew into a multi-level department store famous for men's casual wear, camping gear, novelty items, and even a barber and dining restaurant. Gowings became synonymous with practicality and quality, appealing to generations of Sydneysiders seeking everything from weekend adventure supplies to smart city attire. The store's expansion in the 20th century reflected its popularity, with 4 additional locations opening across Sydney, though these suburban stores struggled to match the iconic George Street flagship. By the early 2000s, changing retail habits and successive financial losses forced Gowings to divest its operations to G Retail. Despite efforts to revive the chain, the brand could not withstand the pressures of modern retail competition. On the 29th of January 2006, at 5:23 p.m, the last Gowings store closed its doors, ending 138 years of history. The building would later house Supre and eventually Sydney's first Topshop store in 2011, marking the next chapter of the city's retail evolution. Though the lights went out, Gowings remains a cherished memory for those who recall browsing its shelves, getting a haircut, or enjoying a meal with friends, a true emblem of Sydney's retail past. Before Sydney's sprawling shopping centres became the norm, a store stood as a city icon for fashion, homewares and community events. Grace Brothers, founded in 1885 by brothers Albert Edward and Joseph Neil Grace, the business began with door-to-door sales before opening its first shop on George Street. Over the decades, Grace Bros expanded to Broadway, building a 5-story flagship and becoming a hub for dances, fashion parades and family events. The Grace Building, opened in 1930 on York Street, was intended as the jewel in the crown of the Grace Empire, though the Great Depression and shifting commercial districts limited its impact. The store, however, left its mark on Sydney's retail landscape and even served government functions during World War II. Grace Bros foresaw the rise of the suburban shopper, opening pioneering suburban department stores in Parramatta, Bondi Junction and Roselands from the 1930s onwards. By acquiring regional retailers like J.B. Young's in 1979, they expanded into Canberra and other country towns. In 1983, Grace Bros was acquired by Myer, and after decades of trading under its original name, the Grace Bros brand was retired in 2004. Yet for those who remember browsing the Broadway aisles, attending events in the Grace Auditorium, or discovering treasures in their suburban stores, Grace Bros remains a symbol of an era when department stores were more than shops. They were destinations. Few department stores were as intertwined with Adelaide's identity as John Martin's, affectionately known as Johnny's. Founded in 1866 by Otto Peters and John Martin on Rundle Street, the store quickly expanded, acquiring adjoining properties and becoming the city's big store. Over time, John Martin's became synonymous with quality, variety and community spirit, employing hundreds and hosting the beloved Magic Cave and Christmas pageant, traditions that continue today under David Jones. Throughout its history, John Martin's grew beyond the city centre, opening suburban locations in Arndale, Elizabeth, Marion and West Lakes, catering to families and local shoppers. The department store also experimented nationally, creating the venture discount chain in the 1970s, which later closed independently. Challenges emerged in the 1980s as national competitors like Myer, Kmart and Target expanded. After a series of ownership changes, John Martin's was acquired by David Jones in 1985. Attempts to modernise the brand in the 1990s, including new logos and price match policies, could not reverse declining sales. The Rundle Mall flagship store closed on the 15th of March 1998, ending over 130 years of trading. While the iconic Art Deco building was demolished, the spirit of Johnny's lives on in Adelaide's culture and in the continued celebration of the Christmas pageant. For generations, shopping at John Martin's wasn't just about buying, it was about tradition, excitement and a sense of community. Sydney once sparkled a little brighter thanks to Mark Foy's, a department store that became a symbol of style and spectacle. Founded in 1885 by Francis and Mark Foy, the store was named after their father and quickly became a city icon. Its most famous location, the Piazza store on Liverpool Street, opened in 1909 and featured chandeliers, marble finishes, and even Australia's first escalator. The opulent ballroom and ice skating rink made shopping at Mark Foy's more than just a transaction. It was an experience. During its heyday in the 1950s, Mark Foy's was among Australia's premier fashion destinations. Yet as the Liverpool Street area declined and suburban retail hubs emerged, financial struggles began, culminating in the store's receivership in 1980. Throughout its existence, Mark Foy's expanded into suburbs like Eastwood, Burwood and Rockdale, and even linked to Sydney's Museum railway station via an underground passage in 1926. The company changed hands multiple times, passing through McDowell's and Walton's, before finally ceasing operations. The City Piazza building lives on today as Sydney's Downing Centre, with heritage tilework preserving Mark Foy's elegance. While the store itself is gone, its legacy endures in Sydney's collective memory, a place of fashion, innovation, and the unforgettable flair that only a department store of this magnitude could bring to the city. Few department stores left a mark on Adelaide and beyond, like Charles Moore & Co. Founded by Irish-born Charles Moore in 1884, the company quickly expanded from a Gouger Street shop into a network of prestigious stores, including Moore's in Adelaide, Charles Moore's in Perth, and Reed's in Prahran. Moore's vision was to create palatial shopping experiences, and his Victoria Square store opened in 1914, epitomised this ambition with a marble staircase, plate glass windows, and a lead-light cupola that flooded the store with natural light. Moore was not only a retailer, but a pioneer, opening branches in Kadina, Udunda, and Balaclava, and establishing a reputation for quality and innovation. Despite setbacks, including a devastating fire in 1948 that gutted Moore's on the Square, the store was rebuilt and remained a city landmark until a gradual decline in the 1970s. The Adelaide store was sold to the South Australian government in 1979 and transformed into the Sir Samuel Way building, now home to law courts. Charles Moore's influence extended beyond Adelaide. In Perth, he opened a Hay Street store and championed the Children's Hospital movement, leaving a lasting legacy. In Melbourne, his ownership of Red's in Prahran cemented his reputation for suburban retail success. Though the department stores no longer operate, their impact on Australian retail history endures, remembered for elegance, innovation, and the grand shopping experiences they offered generations of Australians. Few department stores captured the imagination of Sydney shoppers like Walton's. Founded by John Walton in 1951, the store began as a modest menswear shop on George Street, opposite the Queen Victoria building. Over the next 2 decades, Walton's expanded rapidly, acquiring Marcus Clark & Company in 1966, Anthony Horden and Sons, and McDowell's in 1972, eventually operating 96 stores nationwide. Walton even partnered with American retail giant Sears and launched ventures into finance and insurance, demonstrating a flair for both retail and business innovation. Walton's flagship George Street store became an iconic Sydney landmark, admired for its sleek modern design and bustling shopping floors. The chain was known for offering a wide range of goods, from clothing to homewares, and for embracing suburban expansion, making it a household name across Australia. However, the retail empire faced turbulence when Alan Bond purchased the company in 1981, resulting in massive financial losses. By 1987, the Waltons brand was retired, with stores rebranded as Venture or Norman Ross outlets. Today, the George Street site is home to the Citibank office tower and Galleries Victoria retail space, while traces of Waltons remain in faded signage and architectural memories. Though gone, the store continues to live in the collective memory of Australians, representing a golden era of department store culture marked by ambition, style, and a uniquely Australian shopping experience. These stores may have vanished, but their memories live on in the hearts of Aussies everywhere. They remind us of a time when shopping was more than a transaction. It was an experience. Which of these do you remember most?